You can't be a good parent if you're not present.
Mom, are you watching us?
Sorry.
It's so important for kids to have a healthy lifestyle.
Did you wash?
Yeah.
With soap? Back in.
Mom!
You have to find the funny all the time.
That is not funny. Separate! Separate!
Hi, welcome to Perfectly Imperfect Parents. I am Malika Chopra, and I am here with my friends Danny Modisette and Dr. Karan Adderson. Today we're going to talk about identity. So everything from birth order, does that affect how we envision ourselves, to how do we nurture our children's talents? Any thoughts on identity?
I'll start with birth order. I love that topic because I really believe that where you're born within your family structure profoundly affects your personality development. You kind of are who you are when you come out into the world in terms of your general outlook on life, but how that is shaped and molded has a lot to do with, do you have siblings to take care of, or are you taken care of by your siblings? Do you have no siblings and are you trying to fit into the adult world? You know, and then there are other variables like, are you living with one parent or multiple parents? So there's all this family structure stuff that layers on. My husband does not believe in any of this at all, I should say. He thinks it's complete hocus pocus, but I'm a big believer.
I've heard this crazy statistic about presidents and...
Yes, the vast majority of presidents of the United States are firstborns. I want to say it's like 37 presidents, but I may have that number.
But I thought firstborns are like rule followers, and they always want to do the right thing, and they always want to be liked and all
right,
that.
and that's what gets you to be the president of the United States.
Being a rule follower? I find that hard to believe.
They are people pleasers. They look at the structure that is laid out in front of them, whether it's school or after school activities or whatever it is, and they master it. They follow it and they master it. Plus they play up to the adult conversation. Yeah, we are thirdborns. I am married to a thirdborn and I am a thirdborn. And so we are the peacemakers in the family, which means that we don't like to fight. We don't tend to fight. We talk things out. We're very sensitive to everyone's needs. I find it a little difficult sometimes for two thirdborns to be married to each other.
This is a little sounding like horoscopes to me. Like, ooh, two Capricorns.
Well,
like what?
And yet in your children,
yeah,
do you see differences in their personality and their identity formation where you can go, yep, that's absolutely because he's a little brother, or that's absolutely because he's a big brother?
Well, I have observed that the little one is the troublemaker.
Well, and do you notice, I mean, again, going back to that, not only the sibling thing, but I always find it fascinating that my two girls come from the same family, the same parents, and yet they are such completely different people, you know, and they identify themselves differently as well. Like,
well, I think they have to, right? I mean, don't they, isn't that kind of statistically supported that if one child has an identity, then the other one, you know, makes a difference? Certainly with twins, I know there's evidence where they will do that. Well, they will differentiate just to differentiate.
In my experience taking care of twins, I always found that twins were either exactly the same or 180 degrees. And that's not scientific at all. It was fully experiential, but it played out every single time. And it's to that point. I think the second born has all the same rules laid out in front of them, but they figure out how to exploit the rules. They can really see, oh, is there a real consequence to this one, or do they not follow through? They're getting certain education much earlier, right? So spelling tests and math facts and all that are trickling down to the younger kids because they're hearing the older kids go through it, which turns out to actually not have a very big academic benefit. The firstborns typically do a little bit better academically because they work harder and because they'll often teach their siblings, and when you teach, you do better. I mean, it's all really kind of interesting.
No, I mean, I listen to all this and I think, well, my sister is older, and it was the complete opposite. It was completely, I was such the overachiever because I witnessed what the cost of underachieving, and I was like, yeah, not gonna be me.
And this is where my husband would say this is complete garbage, and you can find a million families that blow this theory out of the water, and he's right. And you know, there are a ton of caveats to it, but I do think identity formation is not just, you know, you're born with a certain set of genes. It's the whole nature versus nurture argument, and there's a big component of nurture that affects who you are, and that nurture is not just your mom and your dad parenting you, it's kind of everything around you.
Well, Leela is a reaction to her sister. Like, Tara is is, you know, she's very social, she's very, like, wants to please everyone. She definitely fits those things. And Leela is a total reaction. Leela is a loner and proud to be one. Like, she rolls her eyes at all the drama at school. She's a drummer.
Right.
She's like totally into Pokemon and Transformers. She was like a Transformer for Halloween.
You know, in terms of identity too, like my son, my older one, loves to surf. So he started surfing very young, and he immediately adopted the whole surf vibe. He's got like the shark's tooth necklace. He maybe surfs like 12 times a year, but he tells everyone he's a surfer. He wears his hair long. There's a whole drama if I try to cut his hair. He wears clothing that looks like a surfer clothing, and then my younger one is like, he's not gonna be the surfer. He's gonna be the soccer player. He's got that carved out.
So my daughter is a fencer. She started
She's
fencing.
a fencer? That's really amazing. Does she know it's 2013? You seriously take her fencing?
I do. She's going to save a damsel in distress. You know, that's her goal.
Well, thank goodness for that.
No, she started fencing. Her cousins are fencers, and she
Oh,
started.
you come from a long line of fencers.
A very long,
Really?
from a 10-year-old line of fencers.
Okay.
And I knew nothing about this world, and she donned the outfit. She grabbed the blade. She puts the mask on.
The mask is the best.
It is her identity, and I think that's where the difference between your identity being a fencer or a surfer, that's a very childish form of identity in the sense that it's very concrete and it's very easy and you can put on a costume and you can be it. The next stage of identity formation does come in the tween and teen years where it's not so much what I'm dressing like and what I'm looking like, but it's how I'm feeling and what I'm thinking and what I want to become.
Well, and how the rest of the world projects onto
right.
me what my identity is.
That's
I mean,
right.
I was a singer and a dancer, and I was like the theater geek, you know, but I was also the Jew at certain points. I was also the fat girl at certain points. So, you know, I think, I don't know how much control we have over.
Well, this is where I have to bring up meditation and again, how we empower children to have a sense of who they fundamentally are. And
I think even if I was meditating, if somebody said, you know, you have a pretty face, but you're fat, I don't want to go out with you.
that I agree with. I don't think you get immune
upset.
to it, but I think if at the end of the day you can be comfortable with yourself and you can be comfortable, and we've talked about this, many adults are not comfortable with themselves. All the expectations that come from other people, but also from your parents. And I think it's a universal thing that we do to our kids, but also that, you know, we all face of the expectations of our parents, and that plays, it's a huge role of identity. Who am I? How am I unique?
And that's also a function of the family dynamics. A kid is naturally just going to throw up their hands and go, you know what, I'm just going to be the black sheep.
And I also think there's a difference, like I've noticed for me and my brother, there's a very different journey. Like Gotham in his film Decoding Deepak talks about the father-son relationship,
Right.
and I watch it and I'm like, I didn't have any of those
Right.
issues, like because for me, I'm a
Right.
girl, and it's like, it's just
Your
it's
daddy's
different.
little girl.
Yeah,
Right.
exactly. He can't be like what I
You were
am.
a firstborn.
Yeah, and I am a firstborn
And
too.
there you go. And there is so much about this sort of being slated into a role and that role becoming your identity. And that's really the question in parenting is, you know, how much of this is for us to carve out which pocket our kid is going to fit in? Because we do have a little bit of control over that. I think we need to surrender that control. I think we need to let our kids be who they're going to be and learn how to support them through. And that's really easy to say and really hard to do.
So I think for me, the journey of identity is really, it's a lifelong journey of self-discovery. So how do we give the tools to feel comfortable in that for their life? But any other final thoughts for you?
Along those lines, the stages of life really represent different phases in identity. So when kids are finding their identity, it tends to be really concrete. When tweens and teens are finding their identity, they're going to a little bit more of a hypothetical area. They're trying to figure it out emotionally and intuitively. We need to honor that as parents, or at least recognize it as parents.
And I am cool with all that. I really want to reiterate what you said earlier about temporary versus permanent changes and experimentation. Whatever you need to do to find yourself and create your identity, great. Just have an eye toward, you may not feel that way in 5 years, 10 years, 60 years. So I think the most that we can point that out as parents, then we've done our job.
So, and for me, I guess my thought is, how do we nurture a child's sense of identity that goes beyond the labels? and again, really giving them the tools to always explore who they really are. Great. Well, thank you as always. And we would love to hear from all of you, your thoughts on how you nurture or deal with your child's sense of identity. Thank you as always for watching Perfectly Imperfect Parents on the Chopra Well.